like to call to order the meeting of Monday, October the 10th, and if you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, please read the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Mosherak.
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Mayor Rapp.
Here, you have the minutes from the regular meeting of September the 26th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support.
Always.
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Is there any changes to the minutes? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand as submitted. Public hearings, we have one.
To hear comments on two substantial amendments to the 2019 and the 2022 annual action plans.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address public hearing number one on the amendments to the annual action plans?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Good evening, City Manager. Kent Harris, 1521 Wells Street, Port Huron. You know, I looked at the document, and again, I know we got a 30-day period for comments and stuff. But when we look at the reappropriation of funds, people should know that basically of the total amount of funds, more than $79,258 come from unused sidewalk monies from the years 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And obviously, the city of Port Huron isn't in that good a shape that our sidewalk money can be sent back or used for other sources. And I just think before we do something, I plan to do this in a document, but I think that we have to look at our sidewalks. We have sidewalk problems in the city of Port Huron. A lot of places where the sidewalks are bad are people that can't afford to use it. CDBG funds are designated for the people who can't afford things. So I believe it would be good to set aside some of that money for that. One of the other things that brought up, and it's been a topic for past years, Councilwoman Anita Ashford brought it up, and we're talking about the viaduct and stuff. And we're getting into a sidewalk issue in there. Going north or going south to the viaduct as you walk it, and then people come from the factories or going to work or coming home, it's not maintained. The minimum requirements for the ADA is 3 feet. Many of the places in that sidewalk are 18 inches wide. The people who join the property, which there are, my understanding, the railroad and one of the factories up there, and no one maintains that property. And plus, where the cement contract ends, cement sidewalk ends on the north side and the south side, there's a gap of about 10 feet that's been clearly unmaintained over the years. And it's kind of, you could battle around to get through it in the summertime, but in the winter it's impossible. And I think before this council goes and appropriates $300,000 or $400,000 to a broadband thing, I think we have to look at the needs of the city of Port Huron. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address public hearing number one? Seeing no one, I'll declare public hearing number one closed. We will move on to public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council, please come forward, give us your name, where you live, and you have 4 minutes.
Julian Ruck, 1423 Lapeer Avenue, Polly's Place. I brought some show and tell tonight, so I'm going to move real quickly through this, okay? There are a lot of gardens and community gardens in Port Huron right now springing up, as we well know. There was a recent article on it. Something I've been having trouble getting across in the short amount of time that I have with a lot of city officials is the difference between what we're doing at Polly's Place and what's happening with other community gardens. Polly's Place is designed with permaculture in mind. I have 20 years permaculture experience. So what I'm doing and what we're doing at Polly's Place is information and knowledge that I've imported to this community from workshops, projects, homesteads, literally all over the country, okay? So though some gardens are pulling everything out right now, there's hundreds of pounds of produce available at Polly's Place. I pulled this turnip out today. There's hundreds of pounds of kale alone. There's broccoli flowers. There's peppers that have not gotten much bigger than this all summer because people harvest them too fast. And so next year I need to plant twice as many peppers. Japanese eggplant right now. You can probably get about 50 pounds worth. And I have to ask you, having shown you that, and also probably about 5 million seeds of kale, carrot, lettuce, everything that we've collected from our garden this year, here's 2 tomatoes. Now we know how many seeds are in tomatoes, right? So we all know that potentially there's tens of thousands of pounds of tomatoes that can be grown from these 2 tomatoes. Now, knowing what I've shared with you here now, if the safety, well-being, and food security of the entire community depended on one person and their knowledge here, who would you bet on? The people pulling out their gardens, or the person and project that's growing enough produce to actually have salad greens probably into December and beginning again in April like we did this year? Additionally, our nonprofit, this isn't what you think, this is dried basil, okay? Our nonprofit for the Harrison Point community is looking at doing added value products that the neighborhood can grow, like basil salt and dried basil, sell it through the nonprofit, and now there's added income for everybody in the community. This is something somebody in the neighborhood is doing for us. Lastly, for show and tell, in case you haven't read the news article yet, you'll see that one line here says, Port Huron City Manager James Freed is supportive of community gardens as a way to enhance the city's neighborhoods. What I spent all day working on today is something like 128 pages of over 2 years worth of dialogue with the city beginning in May 2020, and have gotten no traction, no movement, have been maligned consistently denigrated in our process, when what we're doing is next tier and something this community deeply needs. I've emailed the Google Doc link to I think most or all of you here. I have one physical copy. I want to make sure the mayor gets it.
Thank you.
Yeah. As I was telling my friend here just a few minutes ago, it's like the game of I'm not touching you. Sure, you're not directly attacking our garden. This newspaper article does.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening?
Hello, Stacy Parker. I live in the township. I did live in the city for many years. My family has. I've been following him for a while. What he's doing is remarkable. I take my daughter there. I also teach at the jail, and I could see this program kind of utilizing them, getting them to learn to do different things and to take care of themselves and to have a community garden. I am in the process of saving money. I want to buy my own plot and start off what Julian has done, just to maybe back him a little bit more, and maybe, I don't know, it's remarkable what he's doing. The town is, the poverty is poor. When I do go and visit, I do get the vegetables and stuff, and got my daughter finally, she tried kale, absolutely loved it, so I thought that was kind of cool, spreading that around. I see people who have come up there and giving them food. The one gentleman doesn't have a job right now. Some other things had happened, so then he had gotten food from there. He comes and gets food all the time, so the garden is really helping that neighborhood. So if you can just expand it outwardly, that would be awesome. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the city council this evening? If so, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll declare public comment closed. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Supported by Councilmember Moserak. Clerk like to take the roll, please.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosherak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Items on the consent agenda, received and filed notification from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission that an application has been received to transfer ownership of an escrow 2022 Class C and SDM license from Bar Works Incorporated to JTR Entertainment LLC located at 1006 Military Street. Approve the scheduling of a public hearing for October the 24th to hear comments on the needs, desires, and both short-term and long-term goals regarding improvements in our public parks and recreational facilities in preparation for the new 2023 through 2027 Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Plan. Approve the qualified licensed establishment Bootlickers Axe Company into the Port Huron Social District and recommending applicant be approved by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. Confirming and approving single lot special assessment for fines, assessments, and/or cost of removing blight, lighting factors, and/or causes of blight, as well as individual nuisances. And those are the items underneath the consent agenda. We will move to, from the city manager, number 1.
Accepting the single source quotes from Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $71,804.98 for the purchase of 12 portable radios and accessories and 2 mobile radios to be installed in patrol vehicles for use by the fire and police departments.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Lamb. Can we have a little bit further on
Yep,
this?
Madam
please?
Mayor and Council, this is just essentially replacing obsolete technology. We will be doing this over the next couple of years. This will be the first round of it. We will have some additional ones. Essentially, this Motorola is no longer to support our current radios, which are aging. We will be purchasing encryption technology with this as well, even though we're not required to right now for fire. We will be in about 3 years, and so we're getting ahead of the curve and getting the new encryption technology that will be eventually required. So this is the cost of doing business.
Is there any questions for the city manager? Yes.
James, I'm just curious, do our own city employees install this equipment, or do we outsource that to another company?
We do that ourselves.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
yeah, it's just based on a need factor. I see the fire department is getting 4 and the police department is getting 8. Is that per the need?
Correct. And also, this will be replacing the ones that no longer have parts be made for them, so we can't keep the old ones in service. So it's kind of, we have to do it.
So, okay. And I understand that. Okay.
And Motorola does hold the state contract in there. That's why it's a single source.
And it was budgeted?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosherak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2.
Accepting the bid from Jones Equipment Rental in the amount of $25,698 for the purchase of a Kubota ATV for use by McMorrin Place.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Councilmember Lamb, supported by Councilmember Pemberton.
Madam Mayor and Council, this was bid out. It's actually, even though it's we received a single bid, it is relatively competitive comparison to the Kubota we purchased for the cemetery about 2 years ago. So a little bit higher, but still somewhat in reason given the current market conditions. It will be nice having an additional heavy-duty vehicle just for Blue Water Fest and all the numerous festivals and car shows we have where we're lugging things around. So it will be nice to have an extra vehicle in the fleet.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And this is very understandable. I've been over there quite a bit, and they're running around in this golf cart, and they're trying to put plants and all this stuff on here. So this is needed. So, for it.
Is this a brand new vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosherak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to resolutions. Number 1, please.
Authorizing 25 payments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Moserak. Any questions on any of the bills?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember Ashford.
Yeah, I'm under 1-1, the Black River Canal dredging. And by the way, and this is, you know, I got a call about the dredging and also another thing. So the more we do, can you explain this do we talk to the people in that area before we dredge or anything, or?
Yeah,
Are they, we do?
yeah.
Oh, okay. What do we say?
Well, it depends on what the question is. So the question of do we talk? Well, we file for an annual permit every year with the state of Michigan that requires us to outline where we're going to dump the sand. So once the permit's issued, the state tells us this year you're gonna dump the sand at Lakeside Beach on the north or south side. This year you're gonna dump the sand on Holland to the south.
Right.
And so what we do is we discuss where we're going to move the sand once it's transported. We are working next year, we'd like to move the sand just to the south of the canal, to some of those homes. That would be both beneficial to those property owners and also beneficial we don't have to pay for trucking cost because they just bulldoze it down. That requires construction easements. We tried doing that a few years ago and we had a few property owners who did not sign the construction easement. So we were unable to dump there, so we moved south of Holland. But those communications are ongoing with resident owners. I think now there's a little bit more understanding of the process and the scope of work on their property. So I think we'll have better success next year. So when we apply for the permit in this winter for the spring dredge, which will be at late May, we will try to dump it to the south side of the canal.
And the whole purpose of which is the dredging is trying to make that water go deeper, is that it?
So the prop can make it through.
So the prop can make
So the
it
prop
through.
can make it through.
And then the reason, one of the disadvantages probably is that if you don't do this, it'll be flooding coming out, is that correct?
Well,
statement?
it dams up and the canal is not passable by boats. Although not a navigable waterway officially, it has become that. I will tell folks, sometimes we dredge and we get 3 or 4 months of the canal being clear. And then we can have, like we had a few years ago, we dredged, and then 3 days later, a northeastern wind came through, and it filled in 2 days. They hadn't even moved the hydro hoe yet. So it is becoming a very expensive process. I will say I appreciate our partners at the townships who pay $10,000 each. Fort Gratiot and Port Huron Township have chipped in to help with dredging costs. So we'll hopefully have that contract up for renewal this year. It was a 3-year contract, and it expires soon. So we'll continue to have that conversation with Port Huron Township and Fort Gratiot.
Are we doing any environmental damage?
No, they wouldn't give us a permit if we weren't.
Oh, okay. And so, in the people that we do send over there to do this work in dredging, they are
They're
qualified to?
Yes, and they're not only qualified, but they're working within the parameters of the state-issued Eagle permit.
Oh, okay. All right. We wanted to know that. Okay. And I did talk to the township, and they wanted to know, is there anything, I know we can't fight Mother Nature. It is what it's going to be. So is there anything that we can do different than what we've been doing?
So we've talked to the Army Corps. Could you build a jetty a mile out into the lake? They said yes, but then in 3 to 5 years, you'd be dredging a mile out in the lake because that's how sand works.
More
If
money.
you look at the Lexington Harbor and the design and shape of the Lexington Harbor, they have to dredge that every 2 or 3 years. And that's just a giant jetty. And so this is just essentially the cost of keeping the canal open. We are at the whims of Mother Nature.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that one.
I did have a proposal once, 5 years ago, from a group that wanted to sell me a $3 million bladder that would blow up when the winds came in. And they said, we guarantee that this will keep the sand out. I said, will you guarantee that for 10 years? And if so, it's almost cheaper than, dredging every year. And he goes, well, we can't put that in writing, of course. And I said, okay, then it's not a guarantee. So for someone who figures out the canal and is willing to guarantee it, there's a business venture there.
Yeah, and and people wanted to know this, whether you're not affected by the dredging, but they are, and they need to understand what is taking place, so they could swallow it a little bit more better. And the next one is on the second page, 2 of 3, 1-16, the 16th Street wiffle ball. And both of these, we saw an increase. The first one is the wiffle ball gravel for phase 2.
Yep.
That wasn't in the original design?
No, we changed the scope to put in a sub base. which wasn't in the original design, but we felt it was necessary. So the original bid did not have the gravel sub-base, which for the longevity, we wanted that.
Oh, okay, I understand that too, okay. Okay, and then I understand the next change order, you wanted, no, I don't understand, okay. Yes, I do understand that. You have to have a water thing and the other little French things down here, Nancy, so I guess that's what that was for. Okay, and the next change order is Optimus Park. I just want to know, we spending all this money, we're on Optimus Park, page,
One dash what?
just a minute, 1-18. Want to make sure we spending you guys' money right here, okay? So, now this one, I'm just asking the question, okay, this was, we were up to 897,000. But anyway, the colored concrete, can you explain that?
Yeah, we were advised by experts that we need to differentiate the concrete color, so they would have when you're visually looking down to the skate park, if the concrete's not a different color, sometimes it's hard to see the grade and people could fall. And so as a safety mechanism, they advise that we should change the color of the concrete.
Oh, okay. So what color was it before?
Darker and lighter, whatever it is.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not, it's contrasting colors so you can see depth perception.
Oh, it's sort of like vertical.
Correct.
Like you,
Yep.
okay,
And I can
gotcha.
get you a skateboard and we can test it tomorrow. The concrete's in.
Must be out your mind. No, I need to push you down there, whatever. No, okay, thank you, that's all I had. Just wanted to make sure because we had a lot of, you were missing in action because of your health. We had a lot of change orders and I'd just like to just review them and to make sure that we're on track with them and the reason why we did it. We're not just doing it just to be doing it. There is an obvious reason, okay, that we accept before we pay.
Any other questions? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Mosrek?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2.
Approving the 4-year agreement with St. Clair County for the disbursement of millage funds to the city for the sole purpose of providing operating and capital funds for ambulance services as approved by the voters on August 2nd, 2022.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Pemberton.
Madam Mayor and Council, this is a formality when it comes to disbursement of funds. Very similar to when we get our Parks and Recreation funding from the county as well. This is more of a formality.
Any questions?
Nope, it's just our role is just to execute what's already been passed by the people.
Correct. Take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrek?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 3.
Approving the amendment to the ambulance service agreement with Tri-Hospital Emergency Medical Services Corporation to provide emergency and non-emergency ambulance services.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll switch to support.
Want to get out of here so you can.
Councilmember Pemberton, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. And I assume this has not changed any at all. It's just the
Nope.
same.
Madam
same
Mayor and
agreement.
Council, this is kind of less of a formality and more of actually a decision point. Every community gets to decide whether or not we want to run our own ambulance. We have an amazing fire department. They have amazing paramedics who can show up. We don't transport, though. We had explored several years ago creating an ALS division within our fire department. In my previous community I served, that was one of my projects I did, was deploy an ALS unit. It's very difficult, very expensive, and there's no way we could do it for the value in which Tri-EMS does. Tri-EMS, and I think the voters recognize this given the overwhelming support it had at the ballot box, Tri-EMS provides a remarkable service at a remarkable value to our community. They provide the ALS transport, they provide the assisted transport, they provide the transport between hospitals, moving people from McLaren down to Macomb. There's no way we could do that for the same price. just because they are the subject matter experts. And so what this says is the city of Port Huron, the way the ballot language read is we could collect an EMS millage and run EMS ourselves, or we could pass through those funds to a contractor who would run EMS for us. That is what we're doing, essentially keeping it the same, running these funds, which are meant for EMS services, to Tri EMS, who, quite frankly, we could not deliver not only the level of services, but the quality of services that they do for the price point in which they do it.
There was a reason why we got out of the ambulance business in the 80s.
Yes, there was.
So I don't think we didn't want to go back there.
I think I'll also note as well is we have a very mixed income community, and we have a lot of Medicare and Medicaid recipients who require quality EMS services. The model of an ALS system that's trying to bank on the blues and insurance revenue, where some of the communities that may work, it doesn't really work here. And so what Tri EMS has done is they've been able to develop a model of service that gives everyone quality service. Whether or not you have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Medicaid, you're getting the same level of high quality care for Tri EMS.
Any questions for the city manager? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. Item 7.
Authorizing the city manager to direct the city attorney and city clerk to draft ballot language to authorize the sale of the municipal office center for city council consideration.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Mosrak. And I will turn it over to the city manager for an explanation.
Madam Mayor and Council, you directed me 2 or plus years ago, it was before COVID, to list the building for sale with a broker. That broker is here tonight, Chris Kramer. Since that time, we have showed the MOC to scores of developers. David Haynes and I have walked more developers through this building. And there's a couple candid assessments we need to make about the building. It was built in '78, and not much has been done to it since. So we have some major infrastructure issues that need to be done in this building. We've authorized replacement and repairs of elevators for $320,000. We're looking at a $2 to $3 million repair project for the parking deck. Our windows, if you look outside the building and you look at City Hall, you'll see that about 45% of the windows kind of look funny. They got a little haze to them, they look funny. Well, that's because the seals on those windows have broke, and there's no longer R rating, insulation rating for those windows. And so this is a giant unfunded liability we have here. So there's 2 types of developers. You get the first developer who comes in and says, well, I think if I got it cheap, I could cash flow it as an office building and maybe get by. My fear is then we end up with the AT&T or Frog Country building 2.0. Empty buildings that are depreciated, that are being held hostage, that impede our economic development. Then there's the second type of developer, seasoned, experienced developers who walk into this building and say, okay, this is going to be a $10 to $15 million flip. This is not a building I'm going to buy for a couple $1 million and lease out and cash flow positive. This needs to be a completely repurposed and rehabilitated building. We call this an obsolete facility because it's not fire suppressed, meaning someone who buys this, if you want to change the purpose, has to suppress the entire building. There's major obstacles. Long story short, is we've walked developers and developers through. We've got the first type of developer that says, well, if I buy it cheap, maybe they want to lease it back to us. Can we buy your building and lease it back to you? I'm not even sure how that makes sense. And then you get the developers who realize how big of a project is. And we had a very qualified developer out of New York say, we love your project. It's absolutely amazing. But that's the first time we've ever been to Port Huron and we don't know the market. But it looks good on paper. Tonight we have a developer who's a local developer, Larry Jones. Larry Jones has started with big projects and then bigger projects, and now he is finishing off the $17 million plus Wrigley Center. He likes to call himself a small town developer. I'm not quite sure that's the word I would use for you anymore. He is highly sophisticated, highly experienced, and probably the most credible person that's worked in the city in the last 30, 40 years. Larry Jones and Landmark Academy have single-handedly transformed our town with lofts and commercial viable spaces. All the good successes. I know in the government we like to think that we're the ones who create success, but it's people like Larry Jones who do. Larry came to me about a month ago, and I gave him a key to the city. Literally, I gave him a key to City Hall. I said, roam around, tell me what you think. I think Larry caught a dream and a vision, and tonight Mr. Jones is here to present to the council something that he thinks the community should talk about, and that the mayor and council should begin deliberating. And with that said, I will invite Mr. Jones up here with his esteemed business partner as well.
Well, Madam Mayor, James, and the City Council, thanks for all those nice compliments, but you know, the people we really have to thank are the people, the citizens of this town, because without everybody working together and the ability for everybody to come together and appreciation, things wouldn't happen. Many years ago when I moved here, I listened to everybody say what Port Huron used to be, and you could sense that how badly everybody in this community wanted this town to be back to what it used to be. And so that's where we took on these challenges, and you know, we put our heart into everything that we've done, and we just keep the next thing, what's going to benefit what we've already done and what everybody else has already done. And so that's with the Wrigley Center. You know, I thought it was such a great idea when the county purchased that and the city was looking at partnering with them, because the things that they were going to do for the community was going to support the other things that investors have done in our downtown. Well, that didn't happen because, you know, you needed the income for the tenants, you know, the public housing, in order to support the other items. So we need public housing around the country, and definitely in Port Huron, we need more public housing. And so, you know, we're getting, the Wrigley Center is getting close to being completed. And so, you know, instead of retiring like my wife would like me to, you know, I have to think of what do I want to do next. Well, I've got to tell you, the building that I really love is the Harrington. You know, I mean, that is such a great building. I've toured it more than once, and I love that, but right now it has its issues. But I think about, okay, what could we do in the next step that would benefit the Wrigley Center and benefit downtown and benefit the housing? And it's this building, you know, and I guess why I keep saying this building is because I've had so many people come through the Wrigley Center and think how amazing it is, but before the conversation is over, they're talking about, you know, the worst thing we had is our city building over there on the water. You know, that should be public housing instead of the city, and no taxes being, you know, paid on the building and so on. So that's where, like, we looked at the Wrigley Center that was going to get torn down, and like, okay, let's put a plan together what we could do to make that building. And it's the same way now, you know, with this city building. We wanted to put our ideas together, bring it to the voters, because it's waterfront property, so it's the voters now are going to have the opportunity to say, finally, we want it to be on the tax roll, we want it to be public housing, we don't want it to be, you know, city offices anymore. So I guess that's what I'm asking is, you know, City Council to look at my vision, you know, my dream for the building, and bring it up, you know, to the voters for them to decide. I want to show you some pictures.
Want some help, Larry?
Of course, those are kind of hard to see, but I know they're going to run through some slides and stuff up here Of course, everybody knows that I've worked with Vince from Infuse Architects. You know, Vince is very creative, sometimes a little bit more so, but, you know, I know how to reel him back in. And, you know, the one thing is this building belongs to the city. And so the city needs to get something from this, you know, for the community. And as everybody's seen projects that I've done, whether it was Winkleman's, you know, or Arden's Alley, there's walkways, there's public restrooms, there's things for the community. Well, we happen to have the most easterly point, that other slide was, we have the most easterly point of the state of Michigan is right out there. So that needs to be a park, that needs to be something where the community can come to. And also we'll have Discover the Blue, we'll have the state of Michigan advertising, you know, for the city of Port Huron to draw tourists into our town to be able to enjoy that. Also, the way this building is designed, we're going to be able to, for one, it's going to have to be totally gutted, all the siding, the you know, on the exterior, the windows, everything taken out. But around the top of it, we're going to be able to put a glass railing. So now the community, tourists are going to be able to come here. They're going to be able to have a place to take pictures and go up an elevator to the top floor and see Canada, see the bridge, see downtown Port Huron, and walk around that area. And it free of charge, you know. So it's kind of like a little mini Sears Tower or something. So we're looking at putting, you know, knock on wood here, but you know, 56 units in there. Again, we would be able to put, you know, you could go in there and put 25 big units in that would be, you know, high priced. And that's not what, you know, our city needs. Our city needs, if we put some smaller units in, some one-bedroom units in, and if we can get 56 in there, so we're going to have more foot traffic downtown because they're going to bring in family and friends, and it's just going to, they'll be at our restaurants and support our downtown. So that's kind of what we're looking at. As you can see around the top up there, there's the glass railing. There will be, you know, full 9-foot windows, you know, from floor to ceiling. You know, and we want, so, you know, it's like, okay, well, I was just saying, you know, this building belongs to the community. So if they vote for us to purchase this and do this, we want to make sure that the waterfront you know, stays property of the city, so that the city never has to worry about walking or jogging or anything on that, and to be able to just do something really, really fun, you know, with families.
Thank you, Larry. To be clear, and just to a few parameters around the scope here, our conversations with Mr. Jones was for the footprint of the building in the parking lot. Kiefer Park, where we hold Rock on the River, would continue to be city-owned and a public asset. The boardwalk, the river walk that goes in front of the MOC between the water and the building would continue to be public property. So what we're talking about here is essentially the footprint plus 4 or 5 feet away from it in the parking lot would be possible sale, not any other surrounding properties around it.
Sounds good.
So you thought about 50, a combination of size of units? I mean, you said one bedroom, that you were talking different.
So we're looking at, you know, and I don't know if they have those drawings up, they can bring them up, but, you know, we've kind of plotted out where the units would go. And so we're looking at some 800 square foot, 1-bedroom units. And then there's some 1,300 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath units. You know, those are, you know, some people would think those are small units. I mean, I don't, you know, to downtown living in a building like this is not a small unit. But you know, it's better to have, you know, 56 families living there than you know, 2,000 square foot units and, you know, less people. So that's just what we're looking for. The biggest key is we want to be able to have an elevator that is for, you know, the public to be able to go up and enjoy the view.
Madam Mayor and Council, on the advice of legal counsel, here's what the next steps could possibly look like. As you know, our charter requires that any sale of waterfront property requires a vote of the people. Now, is there a way where we could parcel off, since it's not physically touching the water, we're keeping the boardwalk as at waterfront property? No. The mayor, after numerous conversations with several council members, is clear that the charter intent was that waterfront property should have a voice of the people. And the spirit of the charter and the letter of the charter says a vote of the public. So what I'm looking for tonight is I'm looking for direction from the mayor and council to authorize me to begin working with the city attorney and the city clerk to draft a ballot language for a public referendum in the May 2023 election. That ballot language is going to contain some specifics, which are the four corners of the agreement, meaning minimum sale price, what will the use be, incentives, if there's any tax incentives, that should be in the ballot language so the voters know what the deal is that they're actually voting on. It will not be specific to any developer, although we have a developer here tonight. A purchase agreement would come at a later time with a developer. But what we want to do is we want to put together a document that says, to the residents of Port Huron, here is the question before you. Here is the four corners of the deal. So that if it does pass, there will be no surprises to our residents about perhaps a tax incentive for a few years to help recoup recovery cost, minimum sale price, the minimum we would actually get out of it, and then we would bring that draft language back to the mayor and council for consideration.
So you're saying, as a prelude, once we get this ballot language or whatever, and if something should happen to Larry, he pull out, we will still have the okay of the people to go forth and sell.
With the four corner parameters of what that agreement would look like.
Parameters, correct.
Very similar to what we did in 2008 with Lanterra agreement in the West Quay lot.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
Does anyone have any questions for either the city manager or for Mr. Jones?
Mayor, I have a couple of questions and just a couple of comments. I believe in our conversation with James, and I just want to make sure that it's public, and I confirm that we had intended on putting money into repairing the parking deck, and we would hold off on that until we find out what we're going to do and not put that amount of money in there.
Correct. As I told Mr. Jones as we were walking through the building, I said, it's lipstick on a pig, except we haven't put the lipstick on yet. So if you buy it, you just get the pig. This would include us not moving forward with some of these major capital projects that otherwise we would financially be on the hook for. I mean, the parking deck issue has to be addressed. The elevators have to be addressed. And these are in the HVAC issues, and these are costs the taxpayers otherwise would bear.
And I heard Larry make those comments, so I know you're aware of all of the issues and the things that need to be done, and you're still standing here, so that's a good sign.
Oh, but the thing with that is the fact that, like he's saying, the windows are really bad. The siding is all curling because, it wasn't recaulked 25 years ago like, this type of building needed to be. And so for somebody to come in, it's kind of like, a house. You'll buy a house and fix it up, or you can buy one that's already done that you have to remodel. Well, if you go in here and put all new windows in, put in, redo all that parking structure, try putting a sprinkler system into an existing building. If you go in and spend all that money to do that, to be able to resell it, it's hard to find that person. If you can buy it that needs all this work, there's a lot of money that needs to go into the building, and you're going to gut it. Well, now you're not tearing out brand new windows to put in new windows, to put it into to public housing. So this is where my thought is before the city spends all this money to do something that the public don't want you guys in here, it's better to see if we can, ask the voters if they want to be able to sell this and something else happen and be getting, tax money coming in and not have to spend the money to fix it all up.
Mr. Jones, to clarify, when you mean by public housing, you mean housing available to the public?
Yes, I don't mean public. No. Housing available to the public.
That was on my list. Yeah. All right. Which brings me to, James, one of the 4 points that would be in the language is a minimum purchase price. I'm assuming we'll have an appraisal, and then we will reduce the value based on all the money we would have had to put in?
Yes, it'll be hard to find comparables to this.
Correct.
The fog cutter just went up for auction and couldn't sell for $1 million. And that's a slightly larger facility than we have here. It's a grand building, it's on the waterfront, but it's a huge liability. And so we will have to factor in the depreciation costs, the current capital needs versus market demand. Also, one of the things we'll have to factor in is we're going to tax the heck out of this thing once it's done. I mean, Larry's going to build this thing, well, perhaps, and we're going to tax it and create a long-term revenue streams for the citizens of Port Huron. And so we have to look at that other side of the napkin of what is the revenue stream in the future.
So that was on my list as well. So I definitely love the idea of moving the city off of the waterfront and putting it back on the tax rolls, finding us something much more suitable for City Hall that isn't on the beautiful waterfront. I also think it has the opportunity to be a catalyst for further development on the waterfront. Desmond Landing Desmond and the Seaway Terminal come to mind. All of those properties that are still sitting here because, like the guy in New York, love your city, but I really don't know your market, so I'm not sure, you know, if it's doable. So that would be fabulous. And then, Larry, I have to say, you might finally get your parking garage.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you drive by the Wrigley Center, we're putting in the footings right now for the one-story parking structure. So it is happening. But yes, you know, you talk to whether it's the EDA or, you know, or the city, you know, there's the attraction of businesses coming into our town, and, you know, some nice businesses or companies that are going to be higher paying jobs. So if we can, you know, if we can have nice things like the Wrigley Center, where there's going to be entertainment, if we can have something like this that has nice housing, that is going to attract higher paying jobs to the community, you know, better businesses to the community. And it's also going to bring investors. You know, it's going to bring those people like there, you know, the Harrington, it's going to bring somebody that will actually complete that to have a hotel, because there's people going to be staying downtown. The City Flats Hotel, you know, when we get entertainers in and we have 600-700 people, you know, that's going to fill up our hotels, our restaurants.
Madam Mayor and Council, I will just quickly say, when Larry walked into my office several years ago, it was him and Vince brought in the renderings for the Wrigley Center. And I literally said, I do not have time for this pie in the sky nonsense. No one doubted Larry more than me. And I sat out there in the parking lot of East Quay, I think it was on Saturday or Sunday with you. And I said, I'm looking at it, Larry, but I still don't believe it's sitting here. I mean, I'm just absolutely looking at it. So it is incredible that he's able to bring these types of, you know, $16, $17 million projects to fruition that otherwise would seem impossible. Kerry Hepton and I at the county literally had a plan to put a parking lot there if all failed. And Jeff Bone believed in you, the mayor rep believed in you, and the EDA and the community foundation, so our trust was well placed.
And thank God, like I always say, for a great banker, a good architect, and YouTube. I mean,
And YouTube?
Larry, my final question, remind me, how many units are in the Wrigley Center and how many of those are already rented? I know prior to that, we've primarily had a waiting list for anyone to get into anything in downtown. So I just think that shows.
You know, we have there's like 12 or 14, I think, right now that are rented. And we've rented quite a few just recently. It was kind of something, because of everything's renting up so fast, because all the rest of the units, I mean, people were, you know, after me because they needed to move in. And the Wrigley Center, the way it was advertised, we were into the vintage, and the girls are saying, you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, sad because, you know, that's all leased up. Well, this is why you've seen articles in the newspaper. We had a big walkthrough yesterday, which, I mean, there was over 200 people there, and it was just, I mean, a lot of them were a little bit older people, older than me, and it's just like, you know, people were just really, really excited. But people had the vision that they thought it was already leased up, And so we brought it out, and now it's like, I mean, people are just calling, and, we leased up units yesterday and a big long list. But yeah, you need that downtown, and, people like living in the downtown. I mean, I lived on a big farm, and I know I said I would never live in town, and me and Tracy are right down here, and we love it. You can walk around to events, and it's wonderful. And we have such a beautiful city. And so I just can't wait for, I feel that we're right there where investors, are going to be coming in and doing things that they were kind of dragging their feet on before. So, and there's still a lot of great opportunity in our town. If you drive through town across from McMorran, there's some empty buildings. There's a building right on the corner of Grand River and Huron Avenue that's, needs to be fixed up a little bit. But there's just a lot of great opportunity and, for investors in our area.
Sounds to me, Larry, that if this one goes through and everything works out for you, you're already thinking, what's the next project?
No,
Back at his wife.
don't ask me questions like that. But I want to thank everybody's for support, and everybody's working together, whether it's the county or the city, the EDA. I mean, it's just, everybody's working together, and that's what makes it a community grow.
Now, these units are going to be for sale, not for rent, correct? In this building, or you're not decided that yet?
They're going to be for rent because my banker's here.
I saw him, I just saw him.
But yes, they're going to be for rent
Okay,
or
just to
for
make that
sale,
clear.
so.
And what kind of price are you talking?
And we don't know, we're
A
early.
ballpark, I mean, just if hypothetically, what would they be?
I couldn't,
No
maybe
expectations.
Oh,
okay.
But it's, I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's not a fair question, because I know you
Yeah.
have to go through a whole lot of details.
All I know is we're looking at the Blue Water View and what those are over there, and that's why I want to be able to scale things
Okay,
down,
yeah.
is so that they're nowhere near that kind of money.
Yeah, Larry, and that's why I asked. And also, if I may, Mayor, and you are going to be kind of leaning on some tax incentives here, right? Some incentives?
The only thing that, this project is, we're going to be able to, because the brownfield's not going to be able to use, the new market tax credits are not going to be able to be used, but we are looking for the tax freeze.
Yeah.
Now with that in mind, right now there's no taxes. It's kind of like the Wrigley Center. There was no taxes being paid on that project. So as soon as we purchased it, there would be a value of the building that we would start paying taxes on, which, is still a lot of money.
Yeah, it is, and you probably would be seeking the max.
But by
right?
the time we get it built and get the level, it's, when you hear people coming in, years ago, I can remember hearing people saying about how, how much they were paying in taxes and, could they get them lowered or whatever. There's a big tax base, and already with what we've done in town, there is a large tax base that we pay in, so.
Right.
The Oprah district has a ceiling of 12 years.
Yeah, 12 is the
cap.
max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which goes by pretty fast, and then it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but in
Like
the
the
long
Wrigley
run.
Center we're looking at a little over 300,000 a year in taxes, on that.
Oh.
And that's a lot of income coming into the town
Sure
that
is.
they didn't see.
Yeah.
And just lastly, Larry, I would just, I'm for this, and, and the case has already been made years before you approached us, you're saying that people are saying, why do we sit over here, in this big place and et cetera. And I do see it as an opportunity, but I thank God that our people, our citizens did have the foresight to say, we're not going to just sell this building based on what the council said. This building actually belongs to the people.
Belongs to the people, and that's
Right.
the reason why it's so important. And I stress the fact that, the most easterly point of the state of Michigan, so that we have a park, we have, the upper part where, the community can, can view,
Yeah, and you kept that, and you also, what's so good about you is your heart and how, I've been, touching everything that you've done downtown. I mean,
thank
you
you.
just don't do it, and I, for the better sake of trying to explain this, I mean, it's not for money, it's just your true passion, to make our community the best it could be, our city. And your wife, Tracy, you do that, and and people are just like gravitate to you because, they want to be a part of that and help collaborate and see what you see in that shared vision of what we want to, bring Port Huron out of to where it is, to where we can be.
Right. It's all about it's all about families, that's really it is. So,
And you do that, and I just want to, thank you. From,
Thank you.
Just as Anita, not just as a person, as a human being, that's what we need. That's what every community needs. People like you, developers like you, to come in and take that keen interest and wanting to make a difference. So thank you so very much.
Any other comments or questions from council?
If I may,
Let's go ahead.
just basically want to say thank you. I'm sure you brought back that memory about talking about that parking garage. And before our meeting even started, we have a former council person who did a lot of good things for the city and serving his city. And we talked about the days of this building, and I think probably would have sold it a lot faster. We had a picture of James with his feet up on his desk looking out that beautiful view. I'd like to, and I think you're probably the only one who can see it right now, but how you managed to get that harvest moon off to the left to enhance your view. It's amazing that you could do that if you take a look at the left.
yeah.
Go out
yeah,
there and
Yeah. Oh, look at the moon. Yeah,
But thank you for taking this on. Appreciate it.
thank you.
you had a comment?
I'll be brief. I'm just going to repeat everything everyone else said, but I remember 4 years ago when I ran, and that was, again, one of the most common things when I went door to door. It was, what do you want, didn't have an axe to grind, came asking citizens what, and they say, well, the White House on the water, it'd be nice if you moved out of that. So it's exciting to actually see it go to a vote. And actually, I would have never thought that this would have happened in my first term here. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it. And Larry, again, Anita hit it on the head. As I heard you talking there, how important it was. There's no obligation for you in looking at buying a building and turning it into a property for housing to say, I want to have a public access area as part of that building, but you did it because your heart's in that. And so, your heart in this whole thing is just beautiful. And I know, personally I'm grateful, and as a city, we're grateful. It's not just that you're a visionary who gets stuff done. There's a lot of people who are visionaries, but visionaries who actually accomplish their vision it makes a huge and lasting impact. So we are very grateful to have you here.
Oh, thank you so
Al,
much.
stop, because I know you hate being in the spotlight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry, and I'll echo what everybody else said, but I won't embarrass you anymore. So we appreciate your vision. Thank you. And we have a question to vote on, which is directing the city attorney and city clerk to draft ballot language. And just to state, the reason why it's not till May is because that's the next regular scheduled election is May. It was too late, obviously, to put on the one that's next month. So, plus it takes a while to do the language, and you have to have it approved by the attorney at the state. So this gives us plenty of time to look into it and do it properly.
We got to get moving in December if we're going to get on the ballot. So a little bit, about 30 days window we got to get this going.
Yeah. You can take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosherak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. And we have one other item. It's an ordinance. If you clerk could please read that.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 1, generally, Section 52-162 map of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to rezone the property generally described as 3550 vacant lot Electric Avenue from a C1 zoning district to an A2 zoning district, which is a high-rise multifamily residential district.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support. Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Lamb.
Madam Mayor and Council, this is in regards to the River District site, specifically on the new $14 million residential development that will be going there. This did go before the Planning Commission without any opposition from the neighborhood, and so we are essentially greasing the wheel for that development. We hopefully will hear back from MISHDA within the next 60 days.
Been running.
It's
Okay.
incredible.
there's no questions, we will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrek?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes, that concludes the business part of our agenda. Just a couple announcements. The annual Cops and Jocks Spaghetti Dinner will be held next Tuesday, October 18th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Seaway Terminal. Also, there's a couple events downtown this weekend. Art Hop is on Friday night from 5, I believe, till 9. And there's also going to be an Oktoberfest at McMorran, starts at 1 p.m., goes till 9 o'clock also on Saturday. And then there's also a couple of events which kind of add to this rezoning here. Down on the south side, there's on Friday night and also on Saturday during the day for residents of, especially residents of the south side, to come forward and tell us what they want down there. So they have that opportunity. There's 2 hours, is it on Friday night? I think it is.
Friday.
At City Limits
City
Tavern, and then the next day in the afternoon at Knoxfield. So anybody who wants to come forward and express their views, certainly please do attend that. And is there anything else before council?
Madam Mayor, if I could real quick, Fort Street, the Fort Street project, we had the top wearing coat put on, the top coat of asphalt. The subcontractor did not do a good job, and we rejected the work. And so our inspectors went out there, and the average person wouldn't notice it, but if you go out there and look at the asphalt, there's some areas where there's pooling and puddles, and it was a bad asphalt job. Now, we could easily accepted the work, striped it, and opened the road, but these are taxpayer dollars, and they need to be respected and treated with fiduciary. So on Thursday of this week, they will begin the milling to mill off the top layer of asphalt that they added to Fort Street, and they will re-asphalt that road at no additional cost to the taxpayers to make sure that project is done right. So I apologize for the few weeks of inconvenience of having that road closed as we brought a third-party inspector in to give an assessment of what needs to be done to correct it. But our engineering department and our inspectors, we don't accept shoddy work. And so kudos to the general contractor who's making it right and taking care of it without any issues whatsoever. So our contractor has been fantastic. These things happen, but we need things done right, and we need them done properly if we're going to use taxpayer money to pay for it.
Thank you.
Councilmember
Ashford, I think you had a comment?
Yeah, no, I had a question. Can you speak to the unused sidewalk monies that was mentioned during public hearing?
Correct. So those are specific neighborhoods, but we've actually replenished. If you remember, we put some ARP money in the sidewalk budget. So we're going back through with current dollars and ARP money to address those sidewalk issues.
Okay, but we did send money back, correct?
We reappropriated it to other
So
uses.
you refixed it.
Correct.
Okay, and then also, I think it was mentioned the viaduct, and as an update, the city manager did call me during the Christmas season. The viaduct,
Yep.
we did have an update on that, and they defaulted on their promise to
Yep.
do
Let me
that area.
go back as well with the sidewalk money. There was during COVID, it was also hard to get contractors out in the middle of COVID, so some of that money had to be reappropriated. With the viaduct, as most people don't understand, 24th Street is not in the city. That roadway is controlled by the St. Clair County Road Commission, and so Councilmember Ashford and I believe Mayor Rep was there, met with CX officials, and they promised us that they were going to fix the sidewalk, they were going to paint the viaduct, they were going to add really pretty lights, and it was I thought it was a really nice lip service, and that's all it was lip service, and it's been 3 years and none of it's been done.
But then we were going over there, CNN, and couldn't get over there. I was going over to Toronto to meet with CNN, but that due to the
Correct.
COVID, I couldn't get over there. And so we still haven't given up on
No,
that.
we have re-engaged. So there's there's CN and CX rail lines there. So on the viaduct in 24th Street, there's actually 2 different spans there controlled by 2 different rail lines. And so you may get an agreement with one rail line, but then the next one. Then the other odd part is it's not even in our jurisdiction. So getting them to commit to something is like, well, who are you to be here? Luckily, we have great relationships with the road commission and the township. So we are re-engaging them. We would like to see, one, the sidewalks. That's how people get their groceries. They walk to the grocery store on 24th Street.
Motorbikes, bikes.
The lights either are working or poorly lit, and it becomes a safety issue. It needs to be better lit, and also it needs painted and patched. And it's blight. It's blight at this point. So no, I completely agree.
And then lastly, we had a presentation here tonight, and the gentleman always is here. And my only, I don't have a problem with that. I think you should come, anybody should come if you have some kind of issue with the city in any way. We represent you. You come and you let us know. But in this particular case, the gentleman's been here, you know, I don't know what the bottom line is that he is asking you, but I just want him to know that we are the city council and you work for us. And you guys need to get together, or somebody needs to get together and show me something that I could pass or do something, because, you know, this is like got a life of its own. And I can't see what I'm supposed to be looking at or what I'm supposed to be concerned about. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do not.
You do not. I'm saying that if they're coming here asking you, saying, you know, blaming you for this and that, you know, what is it that you want? You can't give them anything without us.
We always accept written proposals that we bring before the mayor and council under communications and petitions.
We're talking about me.
We're
We're not gonna go back and forth right now.
This is not about you, okay? So, but anyway, this is, you know, this is what government does. You get to the bottom line, what is it that he wants? If it's something, then, you know, he can beat up on us instead of always have to be you. We just want to know what's going on.
Understood.
Okay.
Is there anything else to come before the council? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Meeting adjourned.